then I took it, very seriously. I pretty much read all the books that are available on these topics, all the blogs, and over the period, I started helping candidates on how to write resume. Initially, I prepared a cheat sheet, so something that will give you a gist of what to write and what to avoid, and I circulated with few set of my friends. My friends found it quite useful, and they said, okay, why don't you start writing our resumes rather than sharing your cheat sheet. I said, okay, fine, let me write your resumes, and I started writing them, writing resumes for them. So all in all, I mean, from resume writing standpoint, I am kind of writing resumes from last 8 to 10 years. So definitely before WhatsApp as well as after WhatsApp. So I have been doing this. Okay, so let's look at some of my observations that what I want to share with you today. What is it that we should definitely avoid on our resume? So the first line that we see on most of the resumes after the name and contact number and email addresses is an objective. And before if someone doesn't know what objective is, let's look at some of the things that are there on the screen. Okay, so this is the first objective that I saw in one of the resumes that I received few days back, seeking a position with a dynamic organization where I can learn as well as contribute to growth of organization and my career. Now let me tell you what happens when we write this type of objective. So first of all, this is a very generic objective. Yeah, it's not specific. It does not tell us where we want to go. So as a recruiter, if I am looking at this candidate's resume, I say, okay, this guy wants a dynamic organization. Is my organization dynamic? Maybe, maybe not. In fact, or everyone wants a dynamic organization. Who wants a very stiff organization? Probably no one, right? And then where I can learn as well as contribute. Of course, that's everybody's wish, right? Everybody wants to learn, not only in corporate, but even in their personal life. Even when you are with friends, you want to learn something, contribute into something. So there's nothing new here, and again contribute to the growth of organization and career. Yeah, probably nothing new. Okay. The next one, the result oriented professional targeting assignments in internal auditing. This is slightly specific where he's saying that I am looking only into internal audit, but yeah, this result oriented professional doesn't ring any bell. Yeah, it does not give any additional information. Now this is a quite detailed one, but if we look at the wordings, senior finance professional. Yeah, so he's again talking about himself, offering nearly 8 years of experience, and that's an extensive experience. I don't know what it means, extensive experience, in managing entire financial transactions, reporting, policies, and process transformation, automation for multiple companies and locations while implementing complex business processes and improvements in business support functions. I don't know how you felt while reading through this objective, but when I felt, I pretty much drowned into it. After reading these three lines, I don't think there is anything that stuck into my mind. Yeah. So that's the thing that happens with recruiters, and especially when they are short on time. The last one, it starts with a career objective. It's not even career; it's a career objective. It says motivating career as an expert and import in logistics department. I can incorporate my skills both individually and in team atmosphere, accompanied with my ideas to creating an image for the organization. I feel myself capable to accept this responsibility, and I look forward for a greater career opportunity in your organization. Yeah. So if you look at the common themes in all of these four objectives, it's all about
Yeah,
me, me, and me.
just a minute, Piyush.
Sure.
Your voices can be little louder. Yeah,
Okay. Is it better?
yeah, it is better now.
Okay. So if you see the common theme in all of these objective, it's all talking about me, myself, and my family, and maybe my achievements and what I want to do. Now, as a recruiter, who would be interested in listening to your story? Not many, right? Unless you are like someone like a Bill Gates or or Nikola Tesla or someone very famous. But if you are not, then the chances of people paying to attention to your stories are very less. Yeah. So in that case, there's no point writing anything about what you want to do. As a recruiter, what we are interested, or what recruiter is interested in, knowing how you can help them in resolving problems that they are facing, how you can help them, maybe to build the company, how you can help them to build their team, or how you can help them to address any smaller problem. So writing about me, myself, or writing these vague objectives doesn't help anyone. From here, you can't communicate anything that you want. I mean, only in the case of objective 2, the guy is saying that I need an position internal auditing. But beyond that, there's nothing that that we can interpret. And by the way, when you apply for, let's say, a role of internal auditor, the person already knows that you are applying for an internal auditor role, right? So again, it's no new information for him. So by doing this, we actually make our job difficult. What we need to give is a very crisp and to the point information to recruiter. Yeah. So this objective doesn't help. Before I move ahead, I just want to see if there are any questions. I'm okay to take questions during the sessions or even at the end of session. Any questions at this moment?
You can put up the questions either in a chat box or you can just unmute your mic and speak up the question. Yes. Anyone have a question? It can be related to your own specific field as well. So you can ask any question that may be, related to your own personal experience.
Yes. Hi, Piyush. I have one question.
Mm-hmm.
I read in an article that having an objective in your resume uh, is like diverting the attention. Like your resume should not have any objective, like saying ki, do you want to pursue this? Like it should only have what are your qualifications. So is it true? Means should we have an objective section in our resume or not?
Ideally, we should not have an objective section. That's the point that I was trying to bring out, that if we have any general or vague objective, it's better not to have one. If we still want to have an objective, then it has to be very specific. For example, someone like you is targeting, let's say that I am looking for a position, or I'm looking into a big data, kind of a work. I want to do big data work. Or a better version would be, I am a, a student and interested in coding big data, or I can solve big data related problems. Another way of saying this is, this objective has to be very eye catchy. So if instead of writing this type of objective, we can also say, I solve big data problems, or I can help you with driving digital marketing policies of your organization. Now that could be very specific. Yeah, if we have a specific objective, that immediately grabs the eyeball of the recruiter, and he knows, what you are talking about and what he is talking about. And if there is a match, I mean, then only he's gonna proceed, or at least he's gonna read that section. Otherwise, if we write a general one, he's simply gonna skip.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so moving on, the most popular one, the profile summary. Yeah. Okay, let's look at some of the summaries here. So finance professional having total 6 years of experience in finance analyst roles and responsibilities, then hands-on experience in accounts payable, receivable, cash flow, data, and whatnot, lot of stories. So well acquainted with vendor management and finance budgeting, currently working with management consulting firm as account assistant. Yeah. So this sounds like a very good summary. But what we forget when we write professional summary, okay, before we go into that, let's look at a couple of more example. So a thorough professional with experience in diverse facets like finance, direct and indirect taxation, accounting, budgeting, self-motivated to achieve performance, demonstrate improvements, maintain cordial relations, ability to work seamlessly with senior management team, influential communicator with strong conversation skill. Yeah, so you see he's bringing a lot of aspects. He's bringing his work experience, his personal traits, all into this profile summary section. Then this is coming from a very senior guy with a 16 years of experience in the areas of operation management, quality, process improvement, business analytics, and whatnot, training development. So
Excuse me, Piyush.
yeah.
Your volume, your voice,
Mm-hmm. Is it still not better?
a bit louder is necessary.
Okay. Okay. I'll try my level best.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay. So this is a summary, or this is a profile summary that I see on most of the resumes. Now, what happens when a recruiter refers or reads this professional summary? So when he reads this summary, he doesn't get anything. For example, if you look at the first one, total 6 years of experience, hands-on experience in payable, receivable. Now he might be interviewing for a very specific role, right? So in this case, let's say he's interviewing for accounts payable role. So if you have applied for that role, he already knows that, right? That you are applying for this accounts payable role, which means you are interested to work into accounts payable domain. Yep. So there's no need, to kind of reiterate that fact again. Again, we are wasting recruiters' time, right? By mentioning this summary section. In addition, the resume is actually a summary document. I mean, we all know, right, that resume does not contain everything that we do. So resume is still a few liner summary of the jobs that we have been doing, or the education that we have done, or the skill sets that we bring to the table. Now, if we include summary of a summary, that doesn't make much of a sense, right? So similarly, if we look at the second profile summary, it says a thorough professional and experience in diverse facets like finance, direct and indirect taxation. Now this again ends up confusing the recruiter. Now again, if he is looking for, let's say, direct and indirect taxation, he's least bothered with what you have done in accounting, budgeting, MIS reporting, and other related stuff. All that he is interested is knowing how well you can do direct and indirect taxation. Yeah. Similarly, for the third one, the operation management. Again, a lot of things have been mentioned. First of all, the font size is very small, so it becomes very difficult to read. But even if someone reads, and normally people don't even read the entire resume, so they are gonna just skim through the resume. So they'll say operation management, quality, and then the result-driven professional, which line they are gonna ignore the moment they say result-driven professional. A competent professional, again they'll ignore, and excellent interpersonal, again they're gonna ignore, because if you are so skilled in interpersonal and communication skill, that would be very much visible on your interview, right? Or in your interview. So you don't again have to reiterate the fact that you are good in your resume. This would be pretty much visible during your interview. Okay. So I hope I could communicate the message, that the profile summary, if you could avoid, you should definitely avoid. It doesn't give any value add to the recruiter. Yeah. So the key point is, if you give recruiter to the point material, that's gonna help your cause as well as his cause. Should I?
I have a
Yeah.
question here.
Hmm.
So you are saying that we should avoid the professional summary, but if I know the role to which I'm applying, and I just mentioned in my professional summary, the experience which is just related to that role, will that do?
Hmm. Can you give me an example?
For example, if I am applying for the post of a finance manager, and
Uh-huh.
where I can brief in my professional summary what I have done with my past organization related to that profile only. Like
Hmm.
you said, if someone is looking for only the direct tax manager,
Correct. Yeah. Hmm.
professional summary, do we mention something like in which organization I worked for this profile, how long, or that kind of information here?
Yeah, good question. So typically for a senior positions, yeah, and finance manager is definitely a senior position where you are most likely would be expected to manage a team of 5, 6 analysts or accountants,
Right.
right? So that's a very responsible position. Plus you will be also expected to coordinate with the senior management. Yeah, so it's not a much of a work as such, but it's more of a coordination and using your brain than using your hands. Yeah, so in such cases, even if you give a summary, people would still want to know what exactly you have done in that role.
Right. True.
Yeah, so they would definitely prefer to read more what you have written in your job descriptions, or in subsequent subsections of your resume, but they wouldn't be satisfied with anything that's there on the summary. Yeah. And if we just want to attract an eyeball, or if we want to attract the attention of recruiter, then objective, or I wouldn't call it as objective, but more like a tagline. So for you, if you're applying for a finance manager role, then maybe CA professional with 5 to 10 years of experience and looking forward for a finance manager position, something of that sort, or finance manager responsible for signing off the final balance sheet or final P&Ls. So at least that should attract the attention, but not the profile summary. So if you could not communicate into one line, then they are not going to read 5, 6 lines that we put as a professional summary. Okay. Any other question before I move forward? No.
So, Piyush, I have a question.
Uh-huh.
Farhan here.
Yeah,
So,
go ahead.
so as you said, a longer professional summary would, distract the, or would not, gain attention of the recruiter or the HR person.
Yep,
So,
it's true.
so generally, what happens is, if you are a senior professional, like for example, if I take my own example, I have 10+ years of work ex. So
Hmm.
it at times it is difficult to brief, summarize that into a line or two. So for that, what would you suggest? I mean, how to go about that?
Well, okay. Yeah. So what you have to summarize, you can't summarize your entire professional career, right, in 1-2 lines. That would be too much. So what you have to summarize, you have to summarize your key skill. So what is it that you want to be known for? What is it that you want to get recruited for? So you might be doing 10,000 things in your job, but what is your core strength? Is your accounting your core strength, taxation your core strength, or maybe data analysis your core strength? I mean, that is what you have to put. And I guess recruiters are also looking for someone, who's focused in a very specific skill set. Of course, everybody does bring a lot of other skill set. For example, preparing nice presentation. Now that is a skill set that pretty much every professional would have. Of course, the degree of nicestness, that can be debatable, but at least everyone would have the necessary hands-on experience of how to prepare PowerPoint. But do you want to get recruited for that? If the answer is yes, then write a line saying that I prepare, awesome presentations, or I prepare presentations that just gets hooked the audiences, or I prepare, financial statements error free, something of that sort. So you can't summarize everything that you do in one line, but you have to summarize your key skills, the 1 or 2 skills that you bring to the table.
All right. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Okay. Okay. So let's move on. The third popular section is hobbies. So lot many people write hobbies, and I'll show you some of the examples. So some people would say it's interest, but yeah, essentially if you read the content, it says traveling, photography, exploring old temples. Yep. So good hobbies. Hobbies and interests: playing the guitar, swimming, making friends, traveling, listening to music. Then again, I love reading books, playing games, passionate about music composing. Yeah. So if you see, in all of these cases, person is mentioning something that they are doing in their personal time. Yeah. And most of the times, these hobbies are not at all related to the job. Now, as a recruiter, if I have to, let's say, if I review the first resume, yeah, and if I say interest, traveling, photography, exploring old temple, yeah. But if I am hiring you for, or I am, trying to interview you for the position of a finance manager, would traveling help me? Would photography help? Or exploring old temple? Maybe not, right? It has nothing to do with the jobs that we are at hand or the jobs that we are expected to go for. So again, this information doesn't help recruiter. So again, it's best that if we skip it. If we still want to mention, then we should mention something that is relevant, to that job. For example, if someone writing a blog post, or someone writing articles, or someone kind of doing something with the finance, and if he's looking for a finance type of role, then he should mention. If you are doing some freelance work, that definitely should mention, but that cannot be form a part of hobbies. Yeah, that you are doing something as an extracurricular or extra activity, that you can mention in a separate section, but not into hobbies. Even playing cricket, I mean, you can mention playing cricket if you are, let's say, gonna interview for ESPN or Star Sports. Then yeah, if you play cricket or if you play any sports, then that would be the very relevant hobby. So the point here is, or the idea here is, that you look at what job are you applying for, assess that would your hobby is gonna help you in doing that day-to-day job any better. For example, now I talk about the star sports. If you're applying into a star sports company, and if you genuinely don't have an interest in sports, then which means that you are going to struggle to understand how star sports makes money and how your job adds a value. But if you have a good amount of interest in sports, which means that you would be able to connect the dots very easily, which means that the recruiter would have to spend lesser time in training you. Yeah. So the moot point is that make sure that your hobbies or interest or extracurricular activities are aligned to the job that you are applying for. Yeah. It shouldn't be way out of the job. Yeah. And by the way, most of these I have picked up from the IT professionals as well as from finance professionals. Okay. Any questions on this? This is a quite popular section, by the way. And I also understand that I have spoken to a lot of HR professionals, and they said that, you know, earlier days people didn't had much to ask, so they started asking about, you know, what are your hobbies, and particularly at a senior level, you know, at a director or at an MDR level, people started asking this question, and more and more people started consulting or reading about it, and then it becomes a very streamlined question into the interview process. And as it became a question in interview process, so most of the candidates started thinking, oh, let's include it on a resume so that we avoid that question, which I don't know how much it helps. If you just avoid a question, you're gonna, you know, kind of spoil your chances of getting recruitment opportunities. So that's how I think this section started appearing in more and more resumes. Yeah, but maybe this time has come that we kind of eliminate this from our resumes. Yeah, anyone has a question?
Yeah, anyone have a question? Otherwise, I have a question for sure. Yes. No one have a question on the hobbits? You know, I think this is one of the very scary fact because not to mention a hobbies, we feel that, you know, unless we mention the hobbies, हमारा resume कैसे complete हो सकता है? It would feel incomplete if we don't mention it. In fact, because you know, what a concern I have, Piyush, is even though, you know, if I am working as an finance manager, but there would be very other you know, very other areas where I would be working or I would be interested, and if I want to showcase that, you know, if I want to you know, make myself count on that, would it be then also a bad idea to mention the hobbies?
Okay, yeah, good question. Um, okay, I would again relate it with the job that you're applying for. Now, in your capacity, if you're applying for a finance manager job, so anything that you are doing with finance, whether it's writing, you know, or, you know, talking to people or coaching, that definitely should be mentioned. But let's say you are doing some charity work. You know, a lot of time people don't pay much of attention to it, because most of the time charity works is just like a one-day charity leave, right? That organization grants. But if you are doing something on your own, then that definitely should mention. But if you are simply playing badminton, or, you know, even if you're participating in national level competition, yeah, I mean, that doesn't add much of value to a finance manager job. But let's say you are applying or you are approaching to a company for some business, you know, business related discussions. Maybe you want to offer some of your services in your personal capacity. Then mentioning some of these things would give you some points, or would act as an icebreaker. So if you mention that, oh, I play tennis, and the other person also says, oh, I also play tennis, and then, you know, then that can be an icebreaker. You can get started, you know, you can start your conversation on tennis before you go on to the business topics. So in that sense, yeah, it should be mentioned. But again, if you look at the examples that I'm bringing it here, and considering that either people would be applying for finance job, marketing job, HR job, IT jobs, yeah, most of these hobbies and interests wouldn't add value. But if you're a photographer applying for a photography job, yeah, then interest in traveling would definitely make sense. Photography definitely makes sense. Old temples, yeah, maybe it makes sense.
Okay.
Okay.
So, yeah, any participants have the questions? Okay, we move ahead.
Okay. So the soft skill. This is the fourth, the popular section. And if you look at what people mention under skills or soft skills, project support, working knowledge of VBA, customer service, disputes, chargeback, you know, Microsoft Office, invoice processing, accounts payable. So you see, there's no synchronization. It starts from project support, so some, you know, very technical skills. Then it goes into accounts payable, which is actually a role. Then content moderator slash quality reviewer, which is again a role. Yeah, so no coherency. Then this is a soft skill with the help of a diagram. I don't know what this diagram communicates, but if you look at the pointers: collaborative, intuitive, innovative, communicator, team player, thinker. Yeah, looks like a, you know, quite a person. Then soft skill, now I have a list of soft skills. So communication skill, adaptability, teamwork, problem solving, creativity, and whatnot. Then if we go to hard skills, computer technology, hard communication, marketing. I have never seen this word, by the way, hard communication. Don't know what it means. Convincing power, management reports. So looks like, you know, a lot of power this guy has. So again, as a recruiter, when I read these skills, I often wonder, you know, why people are even applying for the jobs. If you have so many skills, you know, maybe better find your own way out and maybe earn millions of dollars. But if you don't have it, probably that's why you are applying for these jobs. um, Again, what does it communicates? So communicator, I mean, pretty much everybody is a communicator. Even animal is a communicator. It communicates in its own manner. Team player, I mean, that's again expected. Thinker, everybody is a thinker. Who is not? Collaborative, in a world where even the WhatsApp is also a medium of collaboration. So what is the collaboration that we are talking about? Intuitive, innovative, I mean, these are simply jargons, right? There's a chance of me interpreting differently, and the other person or other recruiter interpreting it differently. So there's no standardization here. There's no one meaning that we can take out from this. It's open for interpretation as per the intelligence or the information of the reader. So that we see the same thread in all of these three things, right? So again, what are we trying to communicate? So I think the idea behind when candidates write that I have got a soft skill, they are trying to showcase that while I was working on, let's say, dashboard preparation, or I was preparing, or I was doing journal posting, or I was writing codes in C++, I have also learned how to communicate with people. I have also learned how to be a team player. So that is what they want to communicate. But again, is resume the right document to communicate your soft skills? Again, maybe not, right? So if you are a good team player, or if you are a good communicator, I mean, communication is something that they are anyways going to test during the interview process. So why do you want to mention it? Yeah, so the team player again can't really go by your own validation that you are a good team player. They would probably ask some questions during the interview process that would clarify whether you are a good team player or not. Same thing for collaboration, innovation, customer service. So a lot of these things doesn't have any quantitative backup. Yeah. So these are simply your own interpretation of your own abilities. Yeah. So again, this doesn't help recruiter, because at times, I can also say that, oh, I am very good in Excel, but what I know in Excel is only pivot table and maybe a charts and maybe a VLOOKUP. And there would be someone else who would know probably 10,000 things in Excel, which I don't know. So how do I say, or how do we make that as a generalized statement that I am good in Excel? Yeah, so you see that, right? It's an open for interpretation. So I mean, again, writing these writing skills in this way doesn't help recruiter. We are actually making his job harder. If he wants to really select us or deselect us, we are actually making his job harder by writing all of this stuff. Yeah, so the moot point is, again, if you want to write something in terms of skills, ideally we should write technical skills, something like, let's say, VBA, which is a mention in the first snip point 2, working knowledge of VBA. That's a good technical skill. Yeah, but not a soft skill. Now customer service is a soft skill that cannot be part of technical skills. In fact, that should be part of your maybe job descriptions. Yeah. So I will take a pause here and see if there are any questions. I think this is quite important section. I do see the emergence of this section in more and more resumes, and the skills are just going, there's no limit to what people can write. I read one resume where he said that I love to surf internet, and I think one person mentioned that I like to watch TVs and cartoons. So there's no, I mean, the list is just going on and on.
I guess after lockdown, most of the resumes will have, I like to watch, Netflix and Hotstar.
Yeah, I sense that.
So you are saying that mentioning a technical skill that is hard skill could help, but not the soft skills definitely.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it as a hard skill. I would say it's a technical skill.
Technical
So
skills.
yeah, so something like C++, or knowledge of Python, VBA. So these are definitely languages that if you know, you should mention. Or even in finance, maybe if you draw or if you create some type of models, then we should definitely mention it, that I have got an experience, or I have got a skill to do coding for models. Random walk model or David Scholl model, something like that. So that definitely we should mention. But apart from that, these type of general skills we should definitely avoid.
Okay, so suppose if I have worked on a different systems like the HFM or the BPC,
Hmm.
do mentioning them along with the number of years of experience would help it here in the skills, or do I have to quote them in the main resume?
Hmm. Okay, yeah, that's a very interesting question. So you can mention them along. I mean, if you mention them with your work experience section, so the way it would seem like, okay, I extract data from HFM, Hyperion Financial Management. So that doesn't add much of a value, because what we should ideally express in our work experience section is our contribution or our responsibility. Now, if you extract data from a system, that sounds more like a task than a responsibility. Yeah. So then in that case, it should be mentioned in a technical skill section. Yeah. So you can mention that familiarity with HFM, and you can do a self gradation as well, that I am a beginner level, advanced level, or at an expert level. If you know if the levels, then you can do that gradation. But if you don't know it, then just by mentioning HFM, or mentioning PeopleSoft or Tally or any other system would help.
Yes, audience, do we have any more questions?
Okay.
Feel free to discuss anything which is related to your own, experience, or you might have a doubt related to, whatever education you are taking right now. Just think of you're going to write your resume, and what skills. Probably many of you are the students, so you probably do not know, what skills or what technical skills you can mention over here. But definitely would think, the field in which you want to work in the future. Then what can be the skills that might be required to you? Yeah. So I see there are few students, and I can completely understand the you won't be able to immediately analyze what you want to write in the resume. And we what generally we do is, this is how even I have done. We will take one of our friends good resume, we would just copy it, make the changes, like
Yeah.
the few more here and their details, like the personal details, and we would just circulate it as a resume. But definitely, after hearing to you, I personally feel that we should not be doing this at all.
Yeah, that's a very popular mistake that most of us do, especially in the beginning years of our career. So we believe that, okay, if we download something from Google and if we use that template, it has worked for someone, so it would definitely work for us. And that may not be true. And most of the times, the templates available on Google are, are not much of a value, because pretty much everybody has the access to it. So if I have 100 applicants, pretty much everybody would do the Google search, and they would probably, I mean, out of 100, 70 would use the same template. Probably 30 would try to do something on their own most of the times. And I think that's where the recruitment becomes a challenge. You can't really differentiate one candidate over other.
Piyush, you said, sometime back you have worked also for the biggest recruiter hunter, I would say,
Mhm.
Naukri.com.
Yeah.
So could you just brief something about, like, what exactly services they provide, and should the audience should really go for it, their paid services?
Hmm. Okay. So just to background to some of the candidates, I am on Naukri's panel of interviewer. So Naukri has this package. I don't know how much they price, but somewhere it is close to 5,000 rupees, where they offer few of the things. So one thing that they offer is they would rewrite your resume. That's the first thing that they offer. Second thing is they would do a mock interview with a professional working in the same field as you want to go. The third thing that they offer is they promise that they will circulate your resume to lot many companies, and they will say that this is our first choice candidate for this position. I think they also improve on your profile that's there in their portal. So those are 4 or 5 things that Naukri does. Now I have been on the Naukri's interviewer panel, which means that I conduct mock interviews for all those people who sign up for their services. And I happen to also receive the templates that Naukri's team prepares. Now I have been doing that from last 5-6 years. So what I have seen is Naukri has got 2 or 3 templates, and unfortunately they're using the same template for all the candidates, whether you are an IT guy or an HR guy or a finance or marketing. The template doesn't change. In most cases, even language doesn't change. So if you see one screenshot that's there in the center of this, which says soft skills, and there's a green diagram, a lot of boxes, a lot of circles. So that is actually coming from Naukri's template. Yeah. So this CV was prepared by Naukri. So, and I don't know what kind of experts they have, particularly for resume writing. I know for interviewer, they do have a good team, because I'm part of them. So I have to say that they have a good team. So, but for resume, I, my sense is they have probably given us a guideline that you have to for 3 templates. Just do this. The resumes that I have seen gone into 3 pages, 4 pages, 5 pages. There is the same text being used in one resume versus another. Becomes very different. It becomes very difficult to kind of differentiate candidates. So I have got at least more than 100 samples of Naukri's resume services, and I wasn't proud of it. When I looked at it, I thought, okay, if they are taking a charge, and that's quite a charge, so they should definitely do a good job. I tried to provide them a feedback, but I didn't hear back anything from them. Probably they didn't like my feedback. Okay, I hope that helps, Shirija.
Sorry,
So
my
Piyush, I have a question,
Yeah.
Farhan here again.
Mhm.
So ideally, you said the length of the review. So ideally, what should be the ideal, the size of, like, it should be max 2 pages, or it should ideally be. I mean, it depends upon experience also, but I mean, just asking from your experience, what should be the ideal size for it?
Okay, so my experience, and remember, we are living in an age where we don't even read WhatsApp messages, and asking anyone to go beyond 2 pages would be too much, right? Especially when they have hundreds of candidates to screen. So ideal length should not never exceed 2 pages. If you are gonna exceed 2 pages, which means that you have already lost interviewer, because when the interviewer downloads the PDF or the Word file, first thing that he's gonna look at is how many pages it has. If you say it has more than 2 pages, he'll say, okay, let me look at the first half section, and most likely he's gonna make his decision of whether to read it further based on that first half section. If you don't capture his attention within first half, then it's not gonna make it to the second page. Yeah, forget about the third page. If you capture his attention in the first half, then most likely he will make his assessment by reading 1 to 1.5 page. He's not gonna go beyond that, because by that time I'm pretty sure the job experiences that he would be reading would be at least your 8 or 10 years back experiences, which again doesn't add much of a value for him. He wants to know what you are doing right now or what you have done few years back, not at least a decade back, right? So again, the idea is, if you want recruiter to read your resume, then keeping it as short as possible, that would be the good thing. And by the way, the more the experience, lesser the length. So let's say if you have got 30-40 years of experience, then one page resume should be good enough, because no matter how much you try, you are not going to fit that into 2 pages. So why bother to even write 2 pages? One pager is good enough. You just have to summarize your top achievements, and then you have to allow recruiters to schedule a call with you and then talk about what you have done.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Okay. Um, then the last section, which is a declaration, and I do see this declaration section pretty much in all of the resumes. So, and what it means. So, I undersigned hereby declare that the above information is true and to the best of my knowledge and whatnot. Same thing here. I hereby declare that all the information furnished above is true to the best of my knowledge. Again, the same thing. Above information is correct and up to my knowledge. Now, remember, when we write this, when we are submitting resume, the recruiters believe that whatever you are saying or whatever you are writing on a piece of paper is all true. If he had to believe that whatever you are saying is false, of course he's going to prosecute you if you get recruited, or he's going to fire you, right? So again, this section doesn't communicate. Second thing is, this is a self declaration. Whether you say it or don't say it, it's not going to make a difference, right? We have to believe that all that you are saying is true. So writing this section doesn't add anything differently. Now, why this section is required, or where this section is required? So this would be required if you are, let's say, appearing for a visa interview, or there are some governmental documents where they ask you to kind of self attest. So this is actually an attestation section. This should never ever go on resume, because remember, resume is your marketing document. It's not a literature, or it's not a CV. There is a difference between CV and a resume, and I'll take a minute to articulate that as well. So CV essentially highlights everything that you have done. So CV can go into 7 pages, 10 pages, 15 pages. Yeah, but resume is your marketing document. It's like a sales brochure. You would have seen, right, when Geo launched, whenever Geo launched a new product, iPhone launched a new product, or any mobile company launches a new product, you would see that they will come up with a brochure, or nowadays they send a PDF, which will have essentially 4 or 5 photographs explaining what the functionality of that piece is, or what are the characteristics of that product. They don't go and elaborate anything and everything that goes on to that device, right? It would be 1 or 2 pager max. So that's the idea of a resume. It's like a sales brochure. So you mention the key highlights that you have done. You don't write anything and everything that you do. But if you are submitting, let's say, a CV, and somebody asks you that attest, whatever you have done, you have to self attest, then writing this type of declaration section makes sense. But if you are submitting a resume to a company for a recruitment purposes, declaration hold no value. Yeah. Any questions, or this was simple, clear?
I think we were making this the biggest mistake by mentioning the declaration at the end as if it is mandatory to write.
Yeah.
So you mean to say that we should not mention the date and the place, or that
Sorry,
should
your
be
voice
fine?
broke off.
Hello. Yeah, can you hear?
Yes.
So we should not even mention the date and the place.
No, that doesn't make any sense. Because again, and what value does it carry for the recruiter? Let's say if you're appearing for a face-to-face interview, recruiter already has the record when he called you and why he called you, even the place. So, and in a global world now, place is actually irrelevant. You can have an interview over the call as well. So, I mean, this sort of information doesn't help him. Plus, if you think that he's going to store this information in database, no, again, that will be internal tool, let's say Outlook, or they would have their own recruitment tools where they will kind of define when they're scheduling your interview, when they're scheduling your follow-up, when they're going to send you offer letter. So again, this doesn't help anywhere. It doesn't go anywhere, and hence it doesn't help anyone.
And
Piyush,
yeah. Sorry.
Piyush, I have one point. You nicely explain what should not be there in a resume, but can you just spend a couple of minutes to say what should be there in the resume specifically?
Sure, it's gonna be a challenge for me to explain that in a 2 minutes time, but I'll try my level best. So, what should go in your resume? Very important. So, first is your resume should be attractive. So, when someone looks at your PDF or the print version of your resume, it should immediately grab the attention of the reader. Yeah, he should be compelled to pick up that file, or to pick up that page, and he should be able compelled to read that, at least read that. Now, once you achieve that, okay, what it means is your format has to be very attractive. Maybe usage of color at right places, maybe usage of your photo, and there are so many things that goes on. Yeah, so that if you take care of that, then we talk about the language, what to write. And it's very essential what to write. Yeah, so, and if you see, there is a one word which probably you would find in all of the resumes: performed. Now, if you just Google, there are at least close to 50 or 60 synonyms for perform. But in all of the lines, you would find perform, 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 or contributed, contributed, or managed. So these are the three prominent action verbs that I find in all of the resumes. So that shouldn't be there. I mean, everything that you do communicates a different action, right? So all the things you might be doing: auditing, you might be writing codes, or you might be preparing journal entries. So there is a specific word to explain these job descriptions, and you should definitely use that. Yeah, and then keeping it to a point, keeping it succinct, to the point, and to the interviewers relevant. Not so you have to write it in such a way that within a one sentence you communicate what actually you were doing. Yeah. Plus, you also have to turn your responsibilities into your achievements. Simply saying that I am responsible for a team of 10 people doesn't help. Or simply saying that I'm responsible for signing off balance sheet, that also doesn't help. So you have to convert it in such a manner that recruiter gets what your contribution is. Yeah, that's very important. The third thing I would say is kind of articulating what is it that you bring to the table. And there is a lot of things that goes, or there's a lot of ways that you do. So you can have these technical skills that I talked about before, job descriptions, then the sketchy line, then the format. And the most important thing is not having any spelling or grammatical mistakes. Would you believe that if I tell you the statistics that all the resumes that I received, 80 to 85% of resumes have one or the other spelling mistake. Forget about the grammatical mistakes. I understand English is not our first language, so grammatical mistakes are bound to happen. But spelling mistakes, I mean, the world is capable. There are so many free softwares that you can run through, that your resume can run through that to avoid any grammatic or spelling mistakes. But most of the people don't even do grammar checks. Yeah, so I don't know if that helped, but I tried to summarize it in a few minutes.
Thanks, Piyush. It's helpful.
Okay. Okay, I think we are running out of time, so let me move fast. So what are the learnings then? So it is important to know what to write, but it's also important to know, what not to write. So knowing what not to write is equally important, because if we keep on writing declarations and hobbies and objectives, our the chances that our resumes get thrown out, just like mine was, that goes high up. So the resume should often, should actually, the job of a resume is to present you as a candidate and showcasing to the recruiter that you are someone, who's different than probably than 100 other candidates. That is the job of your resume. So, and the one way of doing that is, you grab the recruiter's attention. And I have this statistical study that says that recruiters, normally spend 6 seconds before deciding, that whether candidates need more time or not. So essentially, you have got 6 seconds, to help the candidate or to help the recruiter make his decision. So your resume ideally should stand out from all other candidates, or at least it should make you stand out from all other candidates. Yeah. So what next? So my sense is everybody should definitely learn resume writing. Yeah, because if we are going to jump jobs in 2 years 3 years of time, which means that in a career of 30-40 years, we are at least going to jump jobs at least 10 to 15 times. And for each job, we might be we might be sending resumes to at least 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 people, I don't know nowadays. And with increasing bots, this number of sending resumes is going to go up. So we definitely have to learn resume writing, and for that I have written this book, Ace Your Resume, and this is a book that you can read in one day. And this book is filled with some bit of a humor and bit of an action point. So by end of, if you complete the reading of this book, you would have your resumes ready just within a weekend. This book is available in an ebook format right now on Amazon, so you can buy it from there. Very soon it will be available in physical format. So we have to wait till the lockdown gets over. So you should definitely learn resume writing. So that's one resource. Okay, now what do we have for the webinar participants? So I also offer resume writing services for selected few professionals. And Kshitija told me that there will be a lot of students joining this webinar. So I have kept this as offer for students. So normally when I write resumes, I normally charge 2,500 rupees, but I am gonna slash this price for the students only. So that will be 699. And for the experienced candidates resumes, normally the charges runs up to 5,000 rupees, but I'm gonna slash that uh, to 2,000 rupees. And this offer is available only till till 7 p.m. So this is not gonna be beyond that. Okay.
I would
And
definitely like to mention that we are providing the link probably for the Piyush this service in a chat box. So those who wants to go for, there is a separate link for the students resume, and there is a separate link those who wants to go for a corporate resume. But I would really like to mention you that if this webinar was basically conducted because we wanted to give some additional points to the viewers that these are the things which are happening, and you heard his experience from the Naukri.com. So those the big size, they have so many people, so they can't really give you a justice. But I have personally worked with Piyush, and I have learned a lot, many things about the resume writing. So you can definitely, book his slot today, even though you don't need his services immediately. But if you book his slot today, you can avail his services anytime. That is what I have like put forward through this webinar. Thank you.
yeah, and I'm sharing few of the samples that I have recently prepared. So I think there was a question that how to write. So I'm showing some of the samples. So first thing that everybody would look at is how beautiful your document is. So I think that's what I'm trying to showcase here.
So Piyush, how many resumes you have, personally made so far?
Okay, so I think I don't have a definite count, but I definitely think that over last 10 years, I have crossed at least 400 to 500 resumes I have definitely made. And professionally, I have just started doing it few months back, but voluntarily, I was doing it, I mean, from last 8 to 9 years.
Your most of the friends and family has taken a good advantage of your this skill, I would say.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah, this looks attractive with the LinkedIn profile and Prashant Shah. It's really looks. It doesn't actually look like a resume, but
Hmm.
something very attractive.
Yeah.
So he has mentioned two skills over here, I guess. Yeah, project management. Okay, so viewers, if you have any more questions, we are open for few questions, maybe related to your own experience or the profession.
Okay, so I think if there are no more questions, then we can close the call.
Yes, does anyone have a question here? No question? Okay. Yes, so if you want to reach out to Piyush, he has his website assureresume.com. Yeah, Krishna, you have a question?
No, Kshitij, I don't have any questions right now, but
Yeah,
I just wanted to thank you and Piyush for this wonderful session. That's all.
My
thank you
pleasure.
so much.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
And there is an email ID also mentioned for him. I would request you all to like the KJ Professional Academy Facebook page. If you are liking the initiative that we have started with, and we will be coming every Sunday, one topic every day. Every Sunday, especially for the students and the professionals. Um, so definitely go visit Piyush website as well, and do like the Facebook page of an professional KG Professional Academy. Okay, so if there are, I just okay. Okay, yeah, I think we are good to close the session here. Piyush, do you have any closing remarks?
I really want to thank all the participants, especially my friends, teacher, and yeah, all the other folks, family as well, for attending this webinar and giving me an opportunity to showcase, what I have learned. So I enjoyed sharing whatever I have learned, and I truly enjoyed your questions. So thank you for taking your time out, and thank you, Stija, for arranging all this.
Thank you. In fact, I want to thank you, Piyush. This is the first webinar series that we have started, and I happen to do it with Piyush. We got connected after long period of time,
Yeah,
and thank you so much, Piyush. For being there for the KJ, KJ Professional Academy's initiative. Thank you so much. Okay, guys. So
thank
yeah.
you.
Yeah, all the participants can start logging off, or we are just closing the minute. Thank you.